Hi there, and welcome to another class on CR. In today's lesson, we're going to take a look at how to correct the distortions that show up when we use a wide-angle lens and when we're, for example, taking photos or when we want to take photos of buildings and we're on the street below. What we're going to learn today can also be used in other situations in which there's an object or something that doesn't show up in the perspective that we're looking for. So let's go. Let's choose a few photos that I prepared here of buildings in which there's a little bit of distortion. Let's open them in Camera Raw. And let's start with this one here. And we're going to do a basic development. Just so you can see the photo properly, we'll take away a little bit of illumination. A little bit of white, we'll lower the exposition time, we'll increase the shadow, and we're going to give it a little bit more clarity. We'll give it a warmer tone, and we're going to increase the intensity. A little more light. We'll finish developing later. What I want to do now is to correct the distortion we can see in this building that's come from the use of a wide-angle lens. When we're on the street, we turn the camera upwards to try and capture the entire building. Well, the building is going to suffer a bit of distortion, and the lines, instead of being straight, and the building, well, in its place, well, it's slanted and it has the top part a little thinner than the bottom part. There's a tool here on the toolbar that's going to let us correct any distortion on any photo, and it's this photo here. This tool here. It's called the Transform tool. This tool has its own subtools or its own regulators to control the quantity of distortion that we want to put in the photo with the objective of improving it. We could tell it to show us or not the mesh. That mesh can be made bigger or smaller. The mesh can be useful to see the lines that we want to correct. Okay, so here we have a series of regulators that are going to allow us to put this building equally wide at the top and the bottom, or at least it's going to look like it has a natural perspective. What's always going to happen whenever we go to transform a photo is that in the end, after the transformation, we're going to have to crop out the part that we have left. We'll see that in no time. The first correction I want to do here is a vertical perspective correction, and we're going to make the top part of the building be a little wider and the bottom part thinner, so that the vertical line comes out parallel to the mesh and not to the inside as they are right now. Okay, let's do that. Let's grab this regulator and we're going to take it to the left, and we'll see how the building part comes forward and the part on the bottom goes backwards. This makes the vertical line be a little more parallel to the mesh lines. Okay, so we've done that, and if we move the regulator that shows us the scale of the photo to the left, we're going to make it smaller, and we can see what's happened. What's happened is to transform the building to make the top bit wider and the bottom bit thinner. Well, what we've done is increase the width of the top part of the photo and decrease the width of the bottom part. It's as if the photo were hung in the air. We could move it forward or backwards, and this would give us a perspective more adequate for what we're looking for. Obviously, when we finish rectifying a photo, that photo has to be either square or rectangular, but not with this shape we have right now. So if we want to fix this photo at some moment, we'll have to use the cropping tool, if we can. If we can, do it with a normal proportion so we can adjust the cropping to how we want it. And if we have the constraint to image option, well, it's not going to let us leave the square. If we had deactivated deactivated, we could also leave the square a crop outside, and this part of the photo would turn into a white area, or we could tell it here that we don't want that, and it would adjust to the limits of the image. So this is what I'm going to do. So whenever we're fixing a photo, we're losing a part of the photo, so it would be interesting if when we know that our photo is going to be a little bit distorted, we give it some space so that we can fix it a lot better. and so that the result looks a bit more satisfactory. Okay, I'm going to hit enter so that we can get this image, and let's continue fixing. I'm going to go back to the correction tool because now I want to rotate the image to the right a little bit. And with this, I'm trying to make it so that the part of the center of the building is parallel to this line. So that's a little straighter as with the base 2. I'm not trying to make the vertical correction totally parallel because if I do, the building may be a little bit forced. I can adjust it a little bit more and then I'm going to leave it there. Let's hit leave, hit the hand, leave, and we can continue developing the image, giving it a little bit more adjustment to the color, to the light, to the clarity, a little bit more intensity. We can give a little bit of saturation as it was a little bit sad. We could go to the HSL panel and with the targeted adjustment, make the blue saturation and luminance give it a little bit more of an interesting contrast. Well, with this, we can keep on developing it as we've seen in the photos before this one, but I'm going to leave this here. Let's go to the snapshots and let's save one called developed and fixed. We're going to see the differences with the original image straight away, and the original image, when we go back to default, is going to show us the cropped version of the image with the same crop we had in the other. So let's take that crop away with the escape key. Let's go back to snapshots and we'll call this one original. This way we can see what we've cropped and what we've transformed from the original image. Here we can see the developed and fixed image, and here is the original. We can see the change, and it's really, really substantial. The building isn't falling back anymore. The vertical lines aren't converging anymore. And in the end, we would have an image that's a little bit more natural looking, apart from the fact that it's been fixed. Well, this is what we could do with this tool in a photo like this one, but we're going to see it working on other distortions. We're going to see in this case an inversed image. From what we saw before, it's normal that when we take a photo from below, the vertical lines become convergent, and when we take a photo from below, the lines become convergent at the bottom of the photo, and at the top, they're divergent. So the vertical lines in this case open up instead of closing. So we're going to do the same thing what we did with the other photo, but in this case, we're going to go a little further. We're going to take away the mesh. We're going to update the development process that has some time. When we process the current development, what does this mean? Well, this means that we took this photo a while ago, and when we opened it to develop it last time, the processor we had was from the year 2003. If we go here to this symbol of the camera, we can see how we're processing this image with the first 2003 version of Camera Raw. We're going to put the 4th version, the one we have currently, and the image data of this photo will automatically update. So, well, we can do this here, or we can simply click here. If we have version 2003, we can click here on this warning, and it will take the old version to the current one. And we can go here to develop the photo normally. If we don't do that, and we stay on the first version, we're going to see that in the basic development panel, there are some tools that don't coincide with the tools we use currently. For example, here there's a regulator called recovery, one called fill light, blacks, brightness, contrast. All of this is not current. So we should update it to the regulators we know, okay? We can put the exposition to 0 as a starting point, and the contrast at 0, and the saturation at 0. So there we'd have the photo. Let's put it here, how we took it. Now we have it as it was taken on the camera. Later we'll develop it. We'll start by transforming it, and we're going to choose a transform tool. And once we've selected it, and it's adjusted, we're going to, instead of going regulator by regulator, we're going to go to some presets and we have here, and they can be extremely useful. The most comfortable is the automatic preset. We just have to hit auto and the computer is going to detect which is the correction we should do to this photo. And if everything goes well, we just have to press a button and we would have the correction in place. We don't always have a perfect result. It's not magic, but in a photo like this, we don't have to worry if we fix if what we want to do is fix the vertical or the horizontal alignment. It can automatically detect it, and as we can see, this line coincides quite well, or at least in part with the vertical. If this didn't happen, we could always just rotate the building a little bit more so that the lines coincide and make some small additional adjustments. Once we have it, we're going to go to the cropping tool and we're going to freely crop this photo. So what we have here now is a geometrical distortion produced by the use of a wide-angle lens. We can fix that here in the lens correction panel, and here we can either make that curve smaller so that we can see the widening effect, and so that we can't see that curve so pronounced. I've exaggerated a little bit, but in this way we can make it so the line is a little straighter. Here we could see how the photo looks, the before and the after. We have the building looking much more straighter, and the only problem we could have, if any, is that we may have lost a part of the photo that we originally had. In this case, we can see here that the chimney isn't in the photo. We're going to go to the crop tool, and with the crop tool, we're going to try and heighten the cropping square as much as we can. We'll go on making the photo a little narrower and we'll go take it up to the end. If we go back to the transform tool and we make the scale a little smaller, we can see up to where we would go. We'll use the crop tool and we can see up to where we could get to. We're here on the edge so that this part on the right of the photo is already touching here with the edge of the sky, so we couldn't increase the cropping angle without leaving the photo. Below we still have a little bit more space, but at the top we're at the limit. Well, we're lucky that the chimney is actually going to fit. We can take away the mesh and we'll see the photo adjusted. Let's leave this. Let's go to the basic panel. And there we can make a recovery of the lights, an increase in the shadows, a little bit more clarity, intensity, and we could leave it there. Or we could go to HSL, the HSL panel, and we can make an increase in the saturation or the blues, lower the luminosity a little bit, and this blue is going to contrast very well with the green and the ochre color we have in the building. Well, now we'll go to the hand, leave this here, we'll go to the snapshots, and we'll call it developed and fixed. This way, we know we've transformed it and we've corrected the perspective that it originally had. Let's go back to the original image and let's get rid of some of the cropping so we can see what we've cropped from the image. Let's call it original. Now we can make a comparison between the original and the developed and fixed one. Here is the original one and here is the developed one. Okay, so we can see the change and it's gone pretty much better, and we haven't lost here this part on the top of the building that would have looked quite too fit to the cropping. Well, we're just going to continue seeing in this case a horizontal transformation instead of a vertical one with this photo. Let's hit here in this tool and we can first develop it before we start to fix it. Let's give it a little bit more light in the shadow, a little more light in general. I'll give it some clarity, a little more vibrance. Now we can see the photo a little better. Let's go to transform and, well, we can always be tempted to hit the auto button and see what it does. In this case, it only did a little fix on the horizontal line, but not as much as I would have wanted. What I want to do is get the sensation that this picture, we've taken it from a corner, not from a corner, but from a frontward position. And for this to fix it in the horizontal perspective is going to help us. Let's hit here and make the part on the left of the image wider than the right side. And this is going to give us this adjustment. Let's keep on giving it more and seeing what happens as we go on modifying it until we practically have a frontal vision of the door. If we look closely, when we reduce the scale, this is what we did to the photo. Let's get rid of the mesh just for a moment. And to move from one image in which we had a side view to a frontal view of the image, we had to rotate the photo horizontally so that we could get the sensation that we were in front of it. Once more, we have to crop because this photo would be useless like this. It can't be a photo until it's a rectangle, so we have to create a rectangle with the crop tool. Well, this could be the result of the photo. We'll take away some flaw. We'd be losing the flowers and the screen part of the image. But, well, I insist, we always have to crop a picture that we've transformed. I'm going to hit enter and let's take away the mesh. Or we're going to activate it, sorry. And we can see how now it's pretty parallel to the lines in the mesh. So with this, we would have the adjustment ready. And let's make a comparison here in the snapshots. We'll make one called developed and fixed, like in the last ones. And let's see how the original settings were. We'll call this one original. And to compare the view in the original and the developed photo, we just have to enter. Once we go to the original, to this one, we just have to enter, and now we can go back and forth with no problem at all. Here we can see the perspective we had originally and the new perspective that's developed of our photo. So there's no distortion. Well, there's hardly any distortion. There's no loss of focus. We can have some fun playing with this tool and fix, well, these distortions that are going to show up in our photos. Let's finish with this vertical view of a church. And we're going to see what we can do with this transform tool. We're going to hit here, automatic. And there we have a vertical. We have it in vertical and we can see that it's cropped out of the top part of the church. Let's hit fix. And we can fix the horizontal line or the vertical line on their own, or we could do them both at the same time. Well, these are presets that the program has here to automatically fix the perspective or to fix the horizontal or the vertical and the horizontal. And this last adjustment, we can put it here without a fix on it. This is so we can decide which lines are the ones we want to correct. For example, I want to correct the vertical line in the tower, the horizontal line here on the stairs, and we're going along applying these corrections, and I want to correct the vertical line on this part of the church. So, as we've told it, we want to fix various lines. It's made an adjusted fix to the lines that I wanted to put vertical, horizontal. I can continue making some adjustments, and in the end, it's very similar to the adjustment we got from the automatic. But here I decided that the lines I wanted to correct. I simply clicked and dragged and putting these lines on the lines that I want the program to fix. Once I've done this, I can lower the scale and I can see what the photo looks like. And on this fix, well, I can rotate the image to the left or to the right. I can make the horizontal perspective go a little to the left or to the right. The vertical, I can leave it a little more natural looking. And well, the look of the photo, I can give a narrower look. If the transformation has made the building look a little different, well, here I can recover the original look. If it was a tall building and it's now a little shrunk, well, I can make it tall again or narrower. And if it was wide and it looks narrow, I can put it back in the size it should be. I can also move the photo to the left or to the right, or I can take it up or down. Okay, so this can be useful at some times. Not in this case though. Okay, let's hit the cropping tool, normal, and let's try and make it so all of the church tower fits in. We can see here that the cross is just in the shot. I don't have any more light to adjust. I don't have any more sky to adjust, sorry. So the only thing I can do now is lower a little bit the image so that I can take it here to the right. As we can see, we have to crop it a lot. The cross is almost being respected and the rest of the image is going to be lost. So we're going to lose a lot, but the perspective of the building is very well fixed. Now, as always, we just have to develop the image and give it the look that we believe is the correct one for this photo. Let's give it here a little contrast curve. We could make the sky have a little more saturation and a little less luminance so that it pops. Let's leave it like this. Let's go on to the snapshot panel and let's give it the name Developed and Fixed. Let's compare it with the original image that obviously had much more space, but now it's going to look much better. If we compare it with how it was originally, we had more space, more image. We've taken out some sky, we've taken out some parts of the sides, but the result is much better because the perspective has been fixed. This is, well, this can be taken to the level or to the extreme we believe is best. My only recommendation is that when we're going to be taking photos that we know are going to be kind of distorted because of the wide angle, the focal distance that we've used, and because we're below a high building and we're going to tilt the camera, we can fix this distortion later and we can leave it in a more natural looking plane. Well, this is everything we can do with this transformation tool. It's a tool that's it's very useful in architectonic photography, but in some cases we can use it like we did here in the door, or maybe a painting on the wall in an interior image. As we can see, it's going to have more use in exterior image. Well, see you guys in the next lesson, and I'll see you later. Bye!